Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to jump straight into the fascinating evolution of organizational behavior science. We'll be looking at how workplace dynamics truly function, taking a journey from rigid, foundational management theories all the way to the informal networks that actually get things done. But before we get into the heavy theory, let me ask you a question. Does your workplace feel like a smoothly running, well-oiled machine? Or does it feel a bit more like a restrictive cage? It's something we've all probably wondered at some point, right? And it perfectly sets the stage for what we're exploring today, that core friction between traditional management strategies and authentic human behavior. So, here is our roadmap for today. 1. Modifying organizational behavior. 2. Rousseau's workplace critique. 3. People versus production management. 4. The power of networks. And 5. Achieving organizational alignment. All right, Section 1, Modifying Organizational Behavior, the Basics of BMAs. Let's look at the traditional baseline for shaping employee actions. So, what are behavior modification actions, or BMAs? Basically, it's the process of initiating, reinforcing, and ensuring that specific, appropriate behaviors are repeated. Traditional management leans on this heavily. You've got positive reinforcement, which kind of assumes we just work for rewards, and negative reinforcement, which is essentially taking away an unpleasant outcome to get a result. At the end of the day, managers use these tools to try and directly shape how an individual responds to their environment. Now, what's really interesting here is the stark contrast in how these modifications are actually applied. On one hand, you have direct BMAs. These are your face-to-face, one-on-one tactics. Think direct mentoring, targeted praise, or tangible rewards like a pay bump. But on the other hand, you've got indirect BMAs. These are way more impersonal. We're talking about structural actions like rolling out new workplace policies, holding end-of-year award rituals, or even just the motivational language that gets tossed around the office. Both are trying to control behavior just through completely different channels. Moving right along to Section 2, Rousseau's workplace critique. The noble savage at work. Here, we introduce a massive twist from an 18th century philosopher to challenge those traditional styles. Man is born free, notwithstanding that everywhere he is in chains. Back in 1762, Jean-Jacques Rousseau threw a real curveball at traditional thinking. He argued for this concept of the noble savage, the idea that humans are naturally peaceful, free, and compassionate. But he warned that formal institutions actually corrupt that inherent goodness. By pushing competitiveness and relying heavily on behavior modification, organizations essentially put employees in invisible chains, destroying natural compassion and authentic pride. So, Rousseau's proposed fix was pretty radical. Instead of leaning on artificial rewards and heavy surveillance, he said, why not design tasks that just have inherent satisfaction built right in? He believed leaders should address the structural root causes of an issue, rather than just punishing the worker. Ultimately, it's about treating people not as programmable machines, but as authentic, capable human beings who can actually manage themselves. Which brings us to Section 3, People versus Production Management, Choosing Your Style. This philosophical clash forces us to look at two starkly contrasting modern management paradigms. This setup perfectly illustrates the modern divide. Look at the left side. Production-centered management essentially treats human labor as a replaceable input. It prioritizes tasks and relies heavily on hard technical skills to optimize throughput. But flip over to the right, and people-centered management takes a totally different approach. It puts human dignity and growth first. It leans on soft skills like active listening and psychological safety, with the core belief that true operational efficiency is fundamentally driven by people. To really synthesize those two paradigms, consider this quote from Kingsley Moghalu. He points out that while we absolutely get to choose our strategies, we are bound by the combined consequences of the hard and soft skills we actually use. It's absolutely crucial. As an organizational leader, you literally can't just pick one style and completely ignore the other. You have to carefully balance both to foster efficiency and human dignity. All right, Section 4, The Power of Networks, How Work Actually Gets Done. Let's step away from formal hierarchies and uncover how things really happen behind the scenes. I absolutely love this metaphor from Professor Seth Akrajaja. He says human personality is like a radio that can receive many frequencies. Whatever frequency you tune into dictates your informal connections. And honestly, this is the heart of organizational networking. This web of informal social relationships is exactly how information and resources really travel. And usually, it's way faster than going through formal, top-down channels. Now, we didn't just figure this out yesterday. In the 1910s, George Simmel laid the sociological groundwork. Fast forward to the 1930s, and Jacob Marino is literally mapping out these interpersonal webs visually. Then, in the 40s, Kurt Lewin showed us how organizational patterns shape social behavior, leading right into the 50s with Levitt and Bavlas researching communication structures. Decades of research prove that if you want to know how an organization breathes, you have to understand its informal network. And that leads us to our final stop, Section 5, Achieving Organizational Alignment, bringing it all together. How do we harness these networks to fix the friction we talked about earlier? So, what exactly is alignment? It's ensuring that people, work processes, and resources are all aiming at the exact same goal so that individual and team efforts actually fit together and make sense. But here's the catch. True alignment is incredibly dynamic. It means that pristine academic management theory has to continually be revised and adapted by the messy, practical realities of the everyday workplace. Which brings us to the concept of bridging the gap. Let's be real, there is often a huge mismatch between what theorists say in a textbook and what actually happens on the office floor, right? What looks great on paper can be a total nightmare to execute. That's where informal networks come in. By tapping into these organizational networks, leaders can actually see what's happening on the ground and bridge the disconnect between theory and execution. But here's the thing. You absolutely cannot achieve this alignment without good data. To properly shape your planning, controlling, and decision-making, the information flowing through your networks has to hit 3 marks: accuracy and calibration, timeliness and completeness, and consistency and traceability. Think of it like this. If your radio is tuned to bad frequencies, your organizational alignment is going to fail. It's really that simple. So I'll leave you with this to chew on. Are your organizational networks truly aligned with your ultimate goals? Take a hard look at your own workplace ecosystem today. Are you relying on outdated rigid behavior modification, or are you tuning into those informal networks to create genuine people-centered alignment? I hope this explainer has given you a powerful new lens to look through and left you inspired to bridge the gap in your own organization. Thanks so much for joining me today.